What do you want from me? Skin samples, bone samples, in the form of a few teeth, hair samples, blood samples, and a few organ shavings. Don't shave my organs! Another of the two-legged flesh abominations waited for me in the castle. I had hoped I'd be able to explore some more, but the creature corralled me into walking where it wanted me to. I'll go wherever you want to, just don't touch me. In the end, I found myself back in my current room. The door shut behind me, but I could still hear the thing wheezing on the other side of the door. My free roaming had been noted. I wouldn't be able to go out anymore today. I refused to be unproductive. I searched around the room for something sharp. Then, I found a piece of furniture I could move with little noise. In a few minutes, I had 6 circles with 2 crossed out drawn on the back. 4 more days to curry favor if I wanted to survive this first week. 4 more days to try and find a way out if I wanted to risk it. I stared at the countdown and sighed. Sleeping remained difficult. I didn't expect to find 2 people looming over me while I slept, but the sight shouldn't have been surprising.
Hello.
You're awake.
Hello!
Good morning. How long have you 2 been in here? The pair shared a look. We don't know. It felt like forever, but our sense of time is extremely broken. It's been a while since we had a guest alive long enough for longer increments of time to pass. An hour or 2. Maybe. I'm not sure. I groaned and sat up, rubbing at my eyes. Why didn't you wake me up? Mortals need sleep, or they begin to degrade. We can't wake you up willy-nilly because we felt like it. Couldn't you have waited somewhere else? We got caught up talking. The 2 shrugged in unison. I fought to keep my emotions off my face. What do you desire? I needed to move the conversation along. For you to join us for meals. Somehow, that felt even more ridiculous than waking up to them in my room. Pardon? Vivere leaned over and snapped his fingers near my ear. I flinched at the sound and rolled away from the pair. That hurt. Your hearing hasn't begun to fade. I didn't ask out of not understanding. I asked out of confusion. You want to take meals with me? Yes. Vivere rolled his eyes. Join us. My morning-addled mind took a few seconds to catch up. I didn't exactly have a choice. They dragged me along even if I said no. Can I at least have some time to wash my face? In private? The pair actually left me to wake up. Kind of. I stepped outside and found them waiting on me, body language indicating a conversation I couldn't hear.
Fantastic!
There you are. Come on. Violo babbled the entire walk through the hallway. He asked me inane things. What company did I work for? Where was my active zone? It almost felt like a job interview. Maybe it is! Vivere didn't comment at all. He observed Violo badgering me like it was nothing new. The dining room they brought me to had been recently cleaned. It smelled of cleaning mixtures and polish. Do you 2 not eat? I asked the question after being sat down across from them. We eat in our bedroom. I'm not letting you in there yet. The 2 did eat alongside me, Violo chatting up a storm. Oh. On some level, it was impressive how much one little man could talk. Vivere idly sat by, commenting every now and then, his dark, heavy eyes on me when not looking lovingly at Violo. I assume good results are the reason for this effort? I asked to confirm my own suspicions in a moment of quiet. Good enough. Nothing particularly noteworthy. Violo snapped his fingers and pointed at me while he clarified.
I made the right choice.
Not bad either, though. Satisfactory. Progress is being made, and that's what's most important. His smile became a bit dangerous. I'm so glad and a little sad that you aren't obstinate. On one hand, breaking arrogant mercenaries is fun. On the other, it's nice to be able to progress with less effort. Vivere hummed. Keep it up. It makes our lives easier if you do. All right. The rest of the conversation felt more than a little bizarre. I was able to ask more about the island and the Bloodwaters, and they actually gave me answers. Most of what I learned confirmed that trying to swim away would be a death sentence. The island alone had more than enough things that would kill me before I even touched the water. Ooh. I mentally cataloged every piece of information they gave me. In the end, the pair left first, ever busy. Once I finished eating, I didn't have a creature ready to herd me back to my room. It was the perfect opportunity to explore the place more. My exploration remained slow and cautious. While the odd creations running around didn't seem hostile, I refused to chance it. I focused on scavenging for useful items. A thick nail, a few pieces of paper, some thick sticks I burnt to make charcoal. In about 2 hours, I was finally able to start drawing out a map of sorts. I'd have to be extra cautious to not smear the charcoal without a sealant to hold it in place. It was better than relying on memory alone. In fact, my new map had me realize something horrible. Yeah, don't the doors and everything change around? The routes were inconsistent. I tested it by trying to repeat paths only to notice the doors and hallways shifted. Closer observation let me guess the castle shifted to reduce travel time for the aberrations. Each shift only happened after I saw one leave an area, so I was pretty confident that was the case. I crouched near a door, tired from the awkward shuffling. I rifled through the maps while I thought. The map would be inconsistent, but what if the creatures had a schedule? If they did, I could gauge the timing and make predictions. But that would take days to test. Days I didn't have. Fluff! A loud bang followed by a series of thudding interrupted my thinking. The door I sat beside fell open, books flying out. Even without my third eye, I could taste the energy shift in the air. The lights in the hall extinguished into nothing. Beep! The air tasted like copper and dirt. The overwhelming smell of sweet flowers had me holding my shirt over my mouth and nose. Out of my business! Ugh. The roar shook the area enough I almost fell over.
Huh?
You insisting on nitpicking every gosh darn thing I do like it's your job. Well, I hate to break it to you, little hay, while Amare might coddle your whittle precious ego, a mere genius is nothing in the face of a prodigy. Oh, he's talking to our little frosty boy. Especially a spineless, pacifistic, hypocritical one that doesn't have the balls to do what needs to be done. What needs to be done? What was the favor that Violo asked Hamos for in the other game? A new voice actually yelled back at him. Cold voice, we know who that is. I have told you once, and I will tell you again. Anyone with a saw can do the needlessly brutal tasks you call work. The accent was thick, foreign, and strange. Icy contempt dripped from each word. It takes no skill to be a butcher. There is enough. A woman's voice cut through the argument. She also had an accent, but this one I could place. She sounded like an older Verdeni. The specific dialect sounded unlike any I'd heard. My curiosity had me leaning in to hear more. Hamos, take your high horse to the stable and leave unless you intend on backing up what you're throwing down. Take your high horse to the stable, that's a good one. Violo, calm yourself down now. The shockwaves you sent off shook one of my territories. You're not my babysitter, Nakare. Nakare, is that the one who, punched a god in the face and killed him? I assure you that I don't want to be, but even Amare has noted that the two of you are getting nothing done. I heard 2 annoyed groans. I sat dumbfounded. Hamos and Nakare were names I only heard in passing from foreigners. Most people only knew their local living god, if they had one. Listening to 3 of them talk was unheard of. My apologies, Nakare. I know you have other things you want to do. Oh, now you're being a brown-noser. Violo's speech went quiet enough for his frustrated rant. I couldn't hear him. The general volume of the conversation faded as well, leaving me awkwardly crouched by the door. It was impossible for Hamos and Nakare to be here physically. They were bound to their prisons. But far-talking mirrors had become very popular in the past 5 years. If Violo had one, I could call for help. I gathered the items I'd dropped and hurried back towards my room. Getting caught listening in would be a death sentence. To my surprise, the pair summoned me to lunch. The 2 greeted me warmly. The room had been tidied up a bit, and a few extra candles had been lit. Is the food all right? Our chef was broody today. He tends to oversalt things when annoyed. It's fine to me. In all honesty, the food I'd had here was far fancier than anything I'd ever eaten before. Some part of me had expected slop and dirty water, but no. Everything had a rich taste and pleasant texture. Only fine? I might need to break his hands again. I told him to impress. Violo rolled his eyes. Hundreds of years can fail to culture even the most stubborn of men, I guess. Is the chef a prisoner? Not like you. He lost his form a long time ago. Rightfully so. Violo's mood darkened. He chewed on his goblet a bit, somehow cracking the metal with his teeth. Please don't feel any pity for him. If you think I'm a monster, he'd be the devil himself. Which is why we shouldn't talk about him any longer. How has your mattress felt? Not too rough? The pair asked me more about the conditions of my care. It was sad to admit that, beyond being their hostage and chained up, I had rarely lived better. I couldn't count how many times I'd spent on the streets and starved for days. I'd gone weeks without bathing before, and water always took priority over food. Here, the bed was soft, even if the room was dusty. Food came consistently, and I always had water available. The pathetic reality of it all had me sighing. The pair returned to work, and I snuck my way back into the study. Violo wasn't there. That probably wouldn't last for long. I hurried into the room and began to poke around, trying to ignore all of the gore. My mind indexed all of the information I had on magic and recent magic items or discoveries. Most of the mirrors used mercury or obsidian, so I looked for those items. The messy room almost tripped me a few times, but I stayed on my feet. The biggest concern I had, beyond speed, was minimizing signs I was there. I wouldn't have magical traces, but knocking things around could make him suspicious. My heartbeat continued to ramp up with my growing fear and frustration. Fluff! Dang it! I rested against a grimy bit of glowing glass near the back to catch my breath. I heard them. I know I did. I punched the metal my hand was pressed against. The motion had the chains on my wrist clattering against it. Pain lanced through me while the runes on the chain flared. I I recoiled back from the slab of glass, only to realize that under the grime I saw my own wincing face. Then, a pair of solid gold eyes opened up in the space. I froze. I thought I sensed something strange. The eyes trailed down to my wrists. They're still using the chains I gave them. They really should have fixed the open energy circuit problem. The voice let out a fond sigh. Ah, really, they're both so reckless. How? The question sounded dumb, even to my ears. How could they fix the problem, or how did I know you were here? I could hear a smile in their voice. My ability to talk dwindled down to nothing. The voice let out a chuckle. I assume you got too close. When the chains attempted to suppress the magic of the mirror, it caused a disturbance in mine. Good thing it did, too. Violo mentioned finding something interesting. I did not expect it to be a live specimen. Finally, my might caught up to the situation at hand. This voice spoke of Violo sadly and fondly. It didn't match the other two I'd heard today, nor was it Vivere. A mare? The voice replied confidently and calmly. Yes? I felt my heart drop into my stomach. For a moment, hope and despair warred within me. Are you all in contact? Yes. In the end, desperation won. Even if it would be futile, I had to ask. Please, help me. The golden eyes narrowed a bit. I'm afraid that will be a bit complicated. Give me a moment. The eyes faded. Wait, no! I choked back a noise of fear. They said to wait, so I bit my lip and waited. The gold eyes returned, accompanied by icy blue ones and fiery orange ones. One of their captives made it to the top floor? How are you not dead, human? Wait, I'm not one of their usual guests. I couldn't have them mistake me for the pair's usual prey. They'd never help me then. What? He violated his own code? The genuine surprise baffled me. This is out of character. Is he sick? This is strange. Either way, it doesn't matter. He's not allowed to take people outside of the selected types we've allowed. I'll send a boat immediately. Can they do that? Relief swelled up in my chest. Absolutely not. They might as well have ripped my heart out. What? Why? I'm eager to hear the reasoning as well. You can't be serious. To begin with, a hand reached out of the mirror. It was made out of golden light, a bronze bangle hanging on its wrist. The hand snapped before retreating. To make sure Violo's observers have nothing interesting to report. Now, on to the reason why sending a boat in would be foolish. It'd never make it. My ships have some of the best crews in the world. All crews are at the mercy of nature. Right now, the Blood Waters is having an energy swell in response to Violo's agitation. It's my fault? Yes. Enough. The brewing squabble died quickly. The forming riptides and hurricanes would destroy any ships passing through. That's assuming Violo doesn't get his hands on them first. Beyond that, we cannot get into an altercation with the pair. The fight would drown at least 6 small islands, killing thousands of people. We can't ignore this violation. I'm not saying we ignore it. I'm saying we be careful. Stop putting words in their mouth, Hamos. There was silence. You three gonna help me or what? Avoiding confrontation would be better. Not that your opinion matters much. You're not strong enough to do anything here. The blue eyes narrowed, but he didn't challenge her. Why did you even call him here, Amare? Hamos, do you think you could make her immortal if I helped you? I could, but I refuse. My jaw dropped. He was quick to explain. It is a mercy for you, I swear. Who knows what Violo and Vivere would do if I did that? They've wanted this spell for years. Amare let out a disappointed sigh. You can leave now, little snowball. Little snowball, aw. Perhaps Nakari was correct that you do not have the experience needed to comment further. But no buts. Off with you. Stop being stubborn. Amare and I will handle this. With a weary sigh, the icy eyes faded. Silence reigned until Nakare broke it. What are we going to do? Send some of your people to brace the islands nearby should an altercation occur. That way, we can try to prevent the islands from sinking due to the backlash. In the meantime, I will begin to make a path for a ship to sneak in by convincing some of the elements to lie. The golden eyes locked onto my own. This will take time. We cannot act rashly. We're hoping for a stealth mission then. Yes, once the path is ready, your men can race to the island. Mortal, when this time comes, you must find a way to the beach. Pario might be small, but it still isn't big enough I could miss the ship. Don't worry, I will also be working to get a guide to you. While we cannot rush in like heroes, I do not intend to leave you there forever. Or for like the next 4 days. You've got to keep your head down, though. A corpse can't run, and we can't protect you if you push their buttons. How long? I am uncertain. The surge is distorting everything. I felt, understanding. Not frustrated or scared, but alright, I get it. I see. I'll try. My stomach roiled. I think I have some time. Violo wants to poke around in me some more. I'm a magical void of some kind, and he just started his research. A void? That's not what he's supposed to be looking into, right? Amare was silent for a time. I see. See what? Amare, you know I dislike it when you're vague. Sorry. Amare let out a faint laugh. I was surprised he hadn't told me about this yet. It's irrelevant to the conversation at hand. You are correct that the research should buy you some time, but do not think it will be enough. You need to at least curry neutral feelings from them. Do your best to keep them from hating you. Remember, head down, nice thoughts out loud only. We will begin work to rescue you immediately. For now, you must leave. Violo will be suspicious if we talk any longer. Stay safe. If you can't do that, at least stay alive. I nodded and watched the eyes fade away. With no other option, I snuck out of Violo's study and returned to my room. I carved another X into one of the circles and added a few more circles to my tracker. One more day down, with an unknown amount remaining. It was hard getting to sleep that night. After I tossed and turned, I eventually forced myself to sleep. Horrific nightmares of hauling myself through blood and fire tormented me. Hands outstretched pulled away. Kind smiles turned into vicious grins. Each death forced me into gasping awake. The issues of today were nothing compared to the coffins stacked on my past. It was no surprise my new stress made my nightmares worse. I managed to force myself asleep each time, but my body felt worse and worse. I woke the next morning with nothing new in my room. Even looking closer, I saw no signs of someone poking around. It made me wonder how much I was being monitored. I reached inward out of habit and bit back a groan of frustration of finding nothing. Not having access to my third eye felt maddening. I'd never gone this long without it. The thing I missed the most had to be contact with elementals. Even when humans cast me aside, I could always reach out to them. Elementals didn't understand betrayal. They kept their word and never lied. The purity found within the natural order had always been comforting. The taste of blood caught me off guard. I loosened my jaw and realized I'd bitten my lip. I held my shirt up to the new wound and sighed. Sitting still solves nothing. I grabbed my map in progress, determined to see what paths I could confirm. My plans were interrupted the moment I opened the door to find the wheezing, melted beast from before. I hopped back and tossed my maps aside. The beast lurched forward, one long hand snagging my shirt. "Hey!" It tugged on my shirt, forcing me to take a step. The creature repeated the motion to lead me along. I was happy it didn't carry me this time. I observed the hallways during the walk. Doors and halls were in the same position they were last time. In fact, I saw the exact same creatures walking the same paths. There was a schedule. I needed to learn it. The creature nudged me towards the familiar study door. It opened automatically, and the floor below me kicked up at my heels until I moved inside. Jeez. Violo stood behind a few tables pushed together.
Hello.
Violo didn't look up from his work. I worried it was another person from the crew, but the body shape didn't match. It was also too old. Despite my nerves, I noticed signs of death. I smelled preservation potions mixed into the sense of death and decay. Is that a corpse? Yes, it arrived last night, so I've been working on it. Why? A new degenerative disease has appeared. We're uncertain of its origins, but it's killed everyone that has contracted it. Luckily, it seems to be a natural phenomenon, separate from gods. That means I should be able to develop a treatment. Why? Because it's killing people. Do I need another reason? Oh. It's surprising, isn't it? A bit. This is my most common type of research. Amos dislikes rooting around corpses, so this work falls to me. Don't worry, you won't be killed yet. That would be wasteful. Besides, killing you puts all research on a time limit. My life continued due to inconvenience then. It was a small mercy. It would also be rude to punish you when you've been doing good thus far. Sure, you may not be impressive, but you're getting passing marks. I'm above assigning high thresholds for no reason. The minimum may be boring, but it's also all that I need from you. I hope to be useful. That was the only way to survive. You have been thus far. I hope you'll continue to be. It'd be a shame if you faltered now. I've gotten off track. You're distracting. My apologies. He laughed. Better distracting than boring, I say. Anyways...
Work is never done.
I called you here for the next step of the experiment. I want to determine whether the effects of your soul's unique attribute also apply to your body. Normally, I'd run the tests on your whole body. The nature of your condition makes that impossible. Since you can't track anything once it's inside me. Exactly. He clapped his hands in delight. I'm glad you follow. I thought I'd have to explain in detail. You want to cut off pieces of me? Yes, I'd fill them back in, though. Promise. The procedure will be clean as well. I can't have you dying of an infection. I swallowed the growing lump in my throat. What do you want from me? Skin samples, bone samples, in the form of a few teeth, hair samples, blood samples, and a few organ shavings. Don't shave my organs! How in the world are you going to do that without killing me? Magic, of course. You'll be a bit stiff afterwards, so you can have lunch in your room. He brushed off my concern like it was nothing. Will it hurt? There was no getting out of this. Violo would take them whether I wanted him to or not. I didn't want to deal with any more pain. Some residual stiffness from patching you up is unavoidable, but I can make sure to minimize the pain. He held his hand out, mouthing something. I watched as various bottles began to move towards us. Have you ever noticed your body not responding to potions or other physical medicines? Magical potions never worked. Not enough energy to surpass your ability to absorb it, my guess anyways. What about non-magical mixtures? Those have worked. Have to be careful, though. Addiction is common for a lot of pain medicine. That it is. I assume you use the standard rotation most mercs use. I let out a surprised noise that he knew about the rotation pattern. What is the rotation pattern? Some of the plants were so addictive that they could only have them once or twice in a year safely. Thus, most of the mercenaries in this area followed a pattern that made sure the stronger ones were available during our work season peaks. I do. We should be able to use kaffir grass and mercy's blood if my sense of time isn't too far off. It isn't. Good. I never know for sure. The pattern? The time. Give me a moment to make the mixture. He gestured to a low, padded table. Settle down over here. I did so, observing Violo. He never double-checked anything, but I doubted he needed to. The correct items would walk themselves into his hands. His motions were precise, practiced. It was odd seeing him so still and serene. Usually his energy had him bouncing in place, but he spared no extra movement while working. Here, take this. This is the correct dose for someone of your sex, weight, and height. I promise. All right. He walked over and held out a cup. The familiar muddy red texture had small mercy's blood petals swirling in it. You added the petals? Of course. The mixture is bitter otherwise. Thank you. Drink up. I downed the potion with ease. The cup hopped out of my hand and wobbled away. Ah! Sir! Violo nudged me to lay back. Once I did so, he hovered over my head, hands on my face. Now, sleep. Drowsiness began to build in me. It wove through my body, pushing me into the darkness. The sound of humming followed me down. For the first time since I arrived here, I slept peacefully. Not a single thing disturbed me in the slightest. Not my organs being shaved. I woke up slowly. I immediately noticed some stiffness in my limbs and grunted. It was only a little bit, though. Nothing compared to my first time here. Welcome back to the world of the living, sleepyhead. A cool hand brushed my forehead. I opened my eyes to find Violo's face still hovered above my own. He sat near the table, looking down at me from where his chin rested on his palm. His other hand idly traced my brow. Not so difficult, is it? No. I tried to frown at how slurred my speech was. Violo noticed my displeasure and laughed. The sensations caused by this mixture are unique, aren't they? My annoyed huff made him laugh more. Poor thing. He patted my shoulder. Thank you for not making this more difficult than it needed to be. Your cooperation also helped improve the quality of the samples. Stress can leave permanent issues in them. Glad to... Frustration bubbled within me. My mind knew what it wanted to say. I just couldn't get my mouth to cooperate. Shh, don't worry. I understand. Don't stress yourself too much. Feel free to go back to sleep. This was all I needed from you for today. My sunshine might call for you, but it'll be later. Take this time to rest up and recover. I managed to nod and tried to sit up. Those dainty yet powerful hands forced my shoulders down. I can't have you stumbling around like a drunkard and killing yourself by accident. Go back to sleep. Oaken here. He patted the table gently. We'll get you back to your bed. I can't... Okay. All my fight died once I realized I couldn't feel my feet. Kaffir grass and Mercy's blood made one heck of a drug. Good, pet. Now rest. He stepped back and the table began to walk. It's like the Beauty and the Beast castle, but more terrifying. And more skulls. The careful swaying motion had me rocking ever so slightly. I closed my eyes and let myself drift off. Violo's pleased humming faded into nothing. Recovering from the experiment took longer than I expected. I'd gone in before sunrise, but it was well past midday before I felt confident enough to walk. My jaw ached. It was nothing to write home about, though. I took the time to examine my body, curious to see if he'd left any sign of where he had pulled things. Nothing felt out of place. Even my mouth felt fine. I couldn't tell which tooth had been regrown. Oh. There were no marks on my body, but a few dull aches here and there let me guess where he took his samples from. He definitely took more than he said he would. I collapsed onto the bed with a sigh, folding my hands together and clenching them. Maybe that would be enough for a bit. I can only hope that he didn't find out too much of what he needed. After all, this experiment was the only thing keeping me alive. Dang it all! I figured that I'd spend the rest of the day wallowing in self-pity. Vivere had other plans. He sauntered into the room with no announcement, no knock and no fanfare.
Hello.
I knew you'd recovered, and to think my love was saying you'd still be laid out. He huffed. I debated closing my eyes and pretending to sleep. Sadly, he had already seen that I was awake. I sat up. What brings you to me? One part was just wanting to see you again. He tilted his head to me, looking me up and down a few times. How odd. I haven't felt this kind of stimulation looking at another person in a long time. Uh-oh. What? You're interesting. It makes my mind race with questions. Usually most humans inspire boredom at best. He played with his hair.
Annoying.
Oh, he is going to be so smug. The little grumble was almost endearing. Beyond that, I do have a technical exam to lead you through. Technical exam? Yes, the basics. Nothing overly complicated. I need this information for your records. Come with me. The dust in this room is bad for me. He did sound a little wheezy. Oh. Hey now. I was getting into male whimpering territory. I stood up and followed him out of the room. Do you have allergies? No. My lungs have been feeling unwell recently. Do you feel sick? I felt dumb asking the question. Can't Violo help? It's complicated. Vivere sighed. I always feel a bit poorly. It's just been worse recently. I see. That sucks. Vivere gave me an amused grin. At the very least, thank you for not apologizing to me. You get so tired of the word sorry after hearing it over and over. Vivere brought me back to his garden. Like last time, small elementals made of bone and flowers tended to things. An elemental of earth and cat bones came over to dance around Vivere's heels. He moved around it, expertly. I noticed dark clouds gathering off in the distance. Is a storm coming? Here? Never. Stormy weather makes my lungs act up, so my love keeps the weather mild. He could do that? He gestured out to the sea. Out there, yes, it will be a hurricane zone for about a day. I did everything in my power to keep my face from showing what I was thinking. Amari hadn't lied about the storm, but did they over-exaggerate how long it would last? Then again, maybe they were estimating it. Could I get a message with the correct time to them? Probably not. Violo spent most of his time in his study. Besides, even if the storms only lasted a while, there could be other issues with the energy that I couldn't sense. Eep. Sorry. Are you ignoring me now? My brain registered that Vivere had been talking to me. In fact, he'd already moved to sit down at his little table with the cat-like creature sitting on his lap. His expression had soured. No, sorry. I got lost in thought. It's a rude thing to do. I'm sorry.
Annoying.
You already said that. Stop gathering wool and sit. I kept my mouth shut and did so. I'm going to test your general knowledge of magic, starting easier and moving up. Is there a punishment if I get something wrong? Not inherently, so long as the error is not on purpose in any attempt to throw off my exam. I frowned. So, let us begin. Well, I'm here to impress, so I try to impress. Some part of me cringed while remembering how informal my education was. Much of what I knew were tidbits I picked up from work, but most mercenaries didn't need to recite poetry to do their job. I'll do my best. I might be off, though. That's fine. Vivere waved away my concern. I'd rather you try and fail than play it safe. It lets me test more things. I nodded in agreement. What are the 4 classifications of an ungodly entity? Devils, angels, elementals, and... It's a different word officially, but it's just humans. Though, shouldn't there be 5 now?
What?
Vivere raised a brow. The creations you and Violo make are on some level, not of the gods. It should warrant its own classification. Valid point. The word you are unsure of for humans is mortals. Right. We decay into nothing. Not technically true. Huh?
As expected.
But it is the common knowledge answer. I won't fault you for knowing something only 5 former mortals know. Ah. Good. Who was the first person to tame fire? The Soul Emperor of the... Fluff. I can't remember their names. Before Verdane was Verdane, it was a collection of 30 tribes. The Soul Emperor was the man who tamed fire and used it to unite the tribes. They then fought back against rampaging elementals. 45 tribes, but everything else was correct. 45? There are only 30 dialects, though. 15 were lost to history, either by absorption or outright eradication of the speakers. That is also not accessible information. Only specialists would be aware. I see. So I'm not a specialist. What are the 5 basic types of elementals? Oh, I know about this. Do you mean the common basic or the academic basic? Vivere actually smiled at me. Do you know the academic basic? Do you know the academic basic? Kind of. Migratory, transformatory, destructive, constructive, and stabilizing? Vivere gave me a small round of applause. Yay! And what of the common basic? Air, water, fire, earth, and shadow and light. The last two are a pair? Yes, this was proven by, an Imperium mage, I think. We thought they were separate before that point. Not an Imperium mage. It was a Joaklon sage. A what? Dead Sand Stripe Order. Oh. Vivere continued the questions. Anytime I thought I could add something more to my less-than-stellar answers, I did. Vivere relaxed into the conversation. It was still a very intensive exam, but the air became more casual. We're becoming friends. Even I relaxed at some point. Good, good. That's enough. I bit back a sigh of relief. Vivere gave me a weak glare. You're determined to make a good showing for yourself, aren't you? I figured it was that or die, so yes. How annoying. I really wanted to hate you. I'm sorry that I've made that difficult. He laughed. That is an odd thing to apologize for. Vivere reached out and grabbed my chin. Looking at you closer, you aren't an eyesore to look at either. Maybe there is some deeper value in keeping you around. I felt my body grow warm under the attention. Did you just call me attractive? Yes, I did. Vivere released my face. Is Violo okay with this? Can we have like a poly thing going here? Probably not. Though if you caught his attention too... Well, sharing is an important virtue. I gaped at him. He just chuckled. Vivere stood up from where he sat. That was all I needed from you for today. He held a hand out to me and helped me stand up from my seat. He tucked my hand into his elbow while guiding me out. Things are going to become a bit chaotic for the rest of the day. Staying in your room would be less of a headache for you and, more importantly, me. Thank you for the warning. Vivere led an idle conversation until we reached the edge of the garden. He saw me off with a wave. I took his advice and hunkered down in my room. That had gone better than expected. I spent the next few hours trying to stay entertained before being summoned to dinner. It was a short affair, and the food helped me feel sleepy. Sleep didn't come easy, but it came faster than normal. My nightmares were particularly volatile. This time, the theme seemed to be literal pain. A knife in the back, a cut to my ankles, a blow to the head. Each memory snapped me awake for a few moments. In time, I fell asleep, and another traitor waited to greet me. The summons never arrived. Even when the sun hung high in the scarlet sky, I remained alone. In fact, I didn't even eat breakfast with them. Something dropped a tray of food off at my door. They must be busy with something. I kicked myself for wasting time. They didn't appear for lunch either, just a tray of food at my door. It was odd to see the schedule shift, but I wasn't going to complain about having some freedom. I ate and decided to mentally catalog some notes for myself. Violo and Vivere were romantically entangled. Violo practically glued himself to Vivere whenever they weren't squabbling. I couldn't quite get a handle on the power dynamic between the two. Vivere seemed generally more stable and logic-driven. Violo reminded me of a hurricane with his intense emotions and mercurial attitude. Despite that, Violo seemed to be the one in control of the situation. Vivere had voiced his displeasure, but Violo seemed to be ignoring that. It felt out of character. Old legends described the creator as killing anyone who even looked at his creation. It felt odd he'd ignore Vivere's loud complaints. Did that make Vivere powerless in the end? That didn't feel right either. Vivere obviously held a lot of power in the area. Something else had to be going on here. The situation didn't match any of the legends of old, and that made me nervous. While the pair were known to be volatile, they at least had a set pattern. That pattern had been broken. My hand shook a bit while I processed this. I am the unluckiest person alive. The only people with the power to remove me from my current captors were the other living gods. Hamos and Nakare sounded eager to act, but they both bowed to Amare's more patient approach. Amare. They seemed pleasant enough. Something about them made my skin crawl. It reminded me of when I faced overlords. No, puppet masters. Their behavior indicated that they were holding something back, and that made me nervous. Could I actually rely on them? Could I rely on any of the living gods to set me free? The anxiety roiling in my stomach forced me to stand and pace. No matter how I managed to angle the situation, I struggled to find an option where I didn't just have to hope for the best. I didn't have anyone looking for me after all. Mercenaries were tools that people used and forgot about. Some people may note my odd disappearance. Maybe they'll muse on it for a bit. Ultimately, I'd be forgotten. I sighed at the harsh reality of life. Long-term friendships had never been on the table for me. That was a fact I'd come to terms with. I couldn't let dark thoughts keep me distracted. Staying in the dingy room would do little to help me. I needed to get some fresh air. Not that the dust and pollen-choked hallways would have fresh air, but it was better than here. I grabbed my maps and charcoal before heading out. I snuck around the castle more. It had 4 distinct layouts from dawn until dusk. Most flesh abominations followed a strict routine, rarely diverting off. Even if they did divert for a period of time, I had observed them reset back into the pattern. Most of the routines involved cleaning, but there was one set that had me curious. They only did this pattern in the morning. They disappeared into what seemed to be a winding staircase. I'd never been able to see what they did down there. I wanted to find out, though. With my mission set, I began to navigate my way to the odd staircase. My chained legs remained a constant obstacle. On more than one occasion, they'd snag on something. I barely avoided cracking my face open. I huffed at the situation. I was adapting fast. It took a lot of self-control to pace my steps, but it was better than tripping. If I survived long enough, I'd get used to it. I made it to the odd staircase in record time. Like I'd observed in the past, the flesh abominations hurried out of it. They skittered like seizing bugs, twitching and grotesque. Only once the last one hurried away did I dare to move from my hiding spot. I took a deep breath before navigating my way down.